we've got fire inspection coming, and they've been coming here since originally 10 a.m. It's 3:15, so they're running a little bit behind. But we're going to see how this goes. Hopefully it goes well.
So I know that's a question that you've gotten before because people are always curious. You are a celebrity bartender. How did you get into the business? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I was studying fashion design at Parsons in New York City, and I was promoting parties at nightclubs in New York City. And one of the people that I knew that would go to parties there, this guy Johnny, who I think he was probably a mid-level gangster from what I could understand and looking at that from the past. I'm like, yeah, he was into a bunch of different stuff. But he told me one day, he said, I need a bartender. I lost one of my bartenders for my bar down in St. Mark's. And I was like, oh, I'll bartend. And he looks at me and says, you know how to bartend? And I said, I'm a New York City nightclub promoter. Of course I know how to bartend. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. So I go down there, a place called the Lead Bar. And so I go down there, and this guy, Big Red, it was the bartender there, and he's this guy who's a jazz blues singer, also bartended, right? So I go and I meet him, and I said, hey, I was like, just so you know, I've never bartended before, so if you could help me not look like I don't know what I'm doing, that'd be awesome, right? And he's like, don't worry about it. I was like, all right. So it's me and Red, and just the two of us. It's in the summertime. It's light out, even though it's in the evening. And the couple comes in from Australia. They're on vacation, right? And they're sit down at the bar. And then a couple of guys come in, and they go to the back of the bar where Johnny's office was, and I hear a bunch of yelling, and the voices get loud, and they're shouting. And then there's gunfire.
Whoa.
And then there's more gunfire. And so the two guys come running out, and they got guns in their hands, got pistols, and they're just shooting at stuff. Like as they run out, there's bullets flying, bullets hitting the wall. And then Johnny comes out with a gun. He's shooting at him, and he goes running down the street, right? And so, anyway, then you hear gunfire, and the gunfire gets fading, and like that. I'm like, they're down shooting at each other somewhere else now, And so, and everyone there is just frozen, and nothing smells quite like gun smoke. It's almost like burning hair. Like it just really just smells like gun smoke, and the whole place smells like that. There's chips on the ground from the bricks from getting shot, and it's just crazy. And everyone's quiet. And so I put my hands on the bar. I look at the couple, and I said, "And that's the New York experience. We do this for all the guests. I mean, tell me that didn't seem like completely real, like it was a real gunfight, right, Red?" And he's just sit there like mortified, and he just looks over to me, looks at them, and he's like, "Exactly." And so that night, all I remember is that happening, and then we started drinking. So that was my first.
Did they buy it?
I don't think they did, but they did start drinking.
They did. So, all right. Well, yeah. So you made some bucks that way.
Oddly enough.
But that didn't scare you off, that job.
New York City in the 90s, oddly enough, the cops never came. How do you have a gunfight in a bar and the cops don't come, right? So They never did.
That's
oddly
crazy.
Enough, I'm like, that seems kind of crazy, but yeah. So anyway,
But that didn't scare you off the job. I mean, like you weren't like, I'm out. This is not for me.
No, you would think.
A normal person.
Yeah. So, but it was great. I loved it. I mean, I really, I like being behind the bar. I like the idea of it, and it just like, I think for me the biggest part was like there's an engaging of people when you're doing that, and then there's a craft that you can learn that's part of what you're doing. So. There's definitely a social interaction that's part of the dynamic of that craft that I really like. So.
Well, and then so you decided to really pursue it, though. I mean, like, again, take it from just being a job, being a bartender, to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was in Aspen. Like I moved from New York City to South Beach to Miami. I lived there for 7 years, and the bartending there was just hardcore, high-volume nightclub bartending, basically, right? Not craft bartending. And so then I ended up...
just kind of like pump it out, basically.
You're
Just
serving drinks till 5 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, Like, I mean, it was crazy. There'd be a line around the block on a Monday at a club to get in at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's just bananas,
Wow.
So then fast forward to, I'm managing a bar in Aspen, And that was where I did my first cocktail competition. And it was the Aspen Cocktail Classic. And so here I am, entered in this cocktail competition, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like,
Did you enter yourself, or did someone enter you?
well, I was at the Little Nell at the Ajax Tavern. And so I'm like, here I am representing this group that, like, I literally don't want to look bad. Like, they're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. This is going to be terrible. You know, I was like, this is going to be really bad unless I figure something out. So Dina Marino was the executive chef there. And so I went and started talking to her. I said, hey, I don't know how to do, like, how do I make flavors and things taste like stuff? Or how do I candy this? Or how do I just need to learn. And so I started just going in the kitchen and asking questions. Because I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anybody to learn from that I knew to go to for these answers. And so my skill set as a mixologist developed in the kitchen from just learning, poking my head around in there. And eventually I would go in and say, hey, I'll do prep work and help, like, do kitchen prep if you guys will tell me how to do the stuff that I want to do in the bar by using your skill set. And so it just...
That was smart.
I just didn't know anything else to do, and so that made sense to me, so I did it. But then fast forward me going to Las Vegas, and I'm running bar programs for a few bars at a hotel in Las Vegas, and I didn't know that this whole, like, craft cocktail thing was the next big thing that people were going to be doing, that started taking off, that people wanted to have this be the focus of their beverage programs. And so when I started getting scouted by Charlie Trotters, I was unaware of that. I didn't even know what was
I love
happening.
that, scouted.
Yeah, so they called me to interview with them, and after some negotiations, I said, you know, they decided, and I decided that it would be a fit. I said, well, do you want to schedule me to come in and do like a, you know, working interview so you can see my skill set? And they said, we've already done that. We've been interviewing you for quite a while. And I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. You guys have been watching me make drinks? And they said, yeah, we've been watching.
They were scouting you.
Yeah. So it was really interesting, and that skill set that I had came from me learning from people in the kitchen, right? And even when I went to Vegas, I'd already developed that mentality, like I'm gonna use culinary techniques in cocktails because that makes a lot of sense. I'm learning how to make balance. I'm learning how to make these things taste great, you know, and I'm gonna apply that to mixology. So I was doing like Bananas Foster cocktails where I'm like, you know, shaving and lighting, you know, cinnamon shavings over the top of a drink, you know, like, so I was doing a lot of stuff that I was seeing done in the kitchen and applying it to the bar. And then that just became my goal. I'm like, well, how can I do this really cool kitchen stuff but do it at the bar, right? And I just didn't know that was going to be like kind of the next wave of mixology was going to be people focusing on doing a lot of that. So when it came to Charlie Trotter scouting for somebody that did that, it was just like I just didn't know what else to do. It wasn't like I thought it was going to be this great. I'm like, well, this is of all the things in mixology I could do, I'm going to do this. It was just like that just seemed like it made sense, so I did it.
It was just natural.
I literally didn't know anything else.
Right.
So, but the funny thing was, I didn't know anything else. Literally didn't have any other education as far as like fine spirits training. Like there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. So now getting, you know, scouted by Charlie Trotters, now the pressure is on. I'm like, I have to have this massive like library of knowledge backed up so that I can actually, you know, deliver in conversation and education what it is that you know, like how do I teach staff about the stuff I don't know, right? How am I going to be interviewing and hiring people that like they can't know more than me, right?
Right.
So, you know, that being said, it was a fun and hardcore educational process that I went through in a pretty fast basis.
And how long were you in Vegas?
Vegas for 3 years.
Okay, and then from Vegas?
From Vegas, I came back to Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you came here. That's when you arrived.
Yeah.
That's when the full circle was complete.
Yep. Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to most about having your restaurant open?
Oh, that's a good question. I think what I'm looking forward to most about getting the restaurant open is just seeing and re-engaging with so many people in the community. Like, it is really where I see most of the people that I see is at work, you know? So I mean, I see people at the gym. I see people at the food bank. I see people at the Edmund Center for the Arts when we're doing our Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
But not in person yet. And so that's really, I'd say the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is definitely that. Yeah, the people.
I can see where it's almost going to be like an extension of your home. I think in terms of welcoming people in.
Absolutely.